Instagram and diagnosis about eating disorders, symptoms in high school students. An overview of our research project will be an exploration of the correlational relationship between appearance, confidence, self-worth, eating disorders, and Instagram use specifically in Flower and Volusia County schools.
Ultimately, what we wanted to do with this was expand on previous research in the field. There's documented research linking social media platforms with mental health problems and psychological well-being, and most of that research is focused on Facebook specifically, but what we wanted to do was look at Instagram, which is much newer than Facebook, but still explosively popular. And it's relevant because it's a visually based platform and we live in a visually based society. We are selfie culture. That is kind of like a defining aspect of the way we live in the world. And part of that culture is the rhetoric of appearance contingent self-worth, which we have defined as the idea that like my self-worth as a human being should hinge on how well I fit into beauty standards and what is widely believed to be the ideal appearance. Instagram, as a visually based platform, can lead to complications with that rhetoric, specifically in terms of eating disorder and flawed body image. And the disorders that we were looking at specifically were anorexia and bulimia, and if Instagram could be a predicator of those symptoms in teenagers, because in our preliminary research, we did not find teenagers to be represented very well in research of this kind, trying to link social media and eating disorders. So what we did to attempt to see if Instagram could lead to those symptoms, we distributed a 15-question survey to area high school students, which was Flagler and Volusia County. Over 200 people ended up responding. We measured passive Instagram use, which we defined as browsing, scrolling, that kind of thing, as opposed to actively posting pictures. And we compared how much passive Instagram use these respondents were doing with 3 different symptoms: worrying about one's weight to an excessive degree, restricting their calories for the express purpose of losing weight, and then the compensation of eating too much by inappropriate behaviors like using laxatives or making yourself throw up or excessive exercise. So we compared all those, kind of mashed them together, and drew conclusions from that.
And we discovered that there is indeed a correlation between passive Instagram use and eating disorder symptoms. However, we found that it's not statistically significant when correlated with a specific eating disorder symptoms. Therefore, that claim has been ultimately not proven. Furthermore, we found that as passive Instagram use increases, the percentage of users presenting symptoms decreases, with the majority of Instagram users use about 1 to 3 hours per day. And also we found that those who restrict or compensate likely exhibit at least one additional symptom.
So this is just a Venn diagram kind of looking at the overlap in symptoms exhibited. So a lot of people worry without exhibiting additional symptoms, but very few compensate or restrict without also worrying or one of the other two. There is pretty huge overlap. So like worrying isn't necessarily out of the norm for teenagers, but compensating and restricting without additional symptoms being present isn't necessarily, which like may suggest that those are more extreme manifestations of the impact of this rhetoric. And then this is just a visualization of the percentage and the proportion of people who exhibited eating disorder symptoms and also used Instagram 1 to 3 hours per day. Literally almost 2/3 of each group, they only used it 1 to 3 hours per day, when we had our overall like baseline was more than 6 hours. So, and then like as Instagram use increased, the percentage of people who also exhibited symptoms declined in tandem with that.
To conclude, we all know how technology advances and high school students are tending to rely a lot on social media. So with this study, we aim to highlight the importance of learning about how our new generations are adapting to the new technology. Our findings can be summarized in a negative correlation between passive Instagram use and eating disorder symptoms, which may be due to certain higher tolerance, including high school students, when using Instagram use and content they're exposed to. We also want to recommend additional to future researchers to take in consideration the time that they spend when gathering data, because that will increase the amount of responses and therefore increase the validity of their responses as well.
Ultimately, this is something that we find very important. It's an important avenue of research to explore because we are continually placing greater emphasis on things like appearance, like your online presence, like social media. Your follower count is significant. It's a defining characteristic of who you are. How many likes you get on your pictures. That also is defining. And ultimately, we do think that this should be explored in further research as our societal expectations and as the integration of social media in society continues to evolve and grow.